As we predicted over a month ago on our channel, David Corenswet is the new Superman, but who is going to play Lex Luthor? We're going to get into it right now on the Sundowners Club. Welcome, I'm your host, Sean, co-host Sterling. So, Sterling, we now have our Superman and Lois for the Superman Legacy movie that is going to it's going to reboot the whole DC universe under James Gunn, which is about it at its critical juncture in its history as it's ever been, with the debacle at the box office of Flash. Whether we kind of like the movie, but the Flash is going to lose at least $150 million, if not more. So they got to get Superman right. And we talked about David Corenswet, and I believe they've got the right casting, because a big part of Superman is the look. You have to see somebody and think that is Superman. So we talked about that, and I think they got the right person for Superman. And then there were a couple people in the mix for Lois. You didn't really watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I did. I really loved that show. I thought Rachel Brosnahan, you could see parts of her playing Midge Maisel in that Amazon series where you could see a Lois Lane. She was a fighter. She was tough. She was attractive. She was funny. So she has all the attributes of what the traditional Lois has been. I say traditional. I'm just thinking about Margot Kidder. You know, that tough. You know, I don't necessarily need your help, Lois Lane. That I think where the direction they're going to go in this movie is she's very independent, and the relationship with Clark is probably going to be a little bit different than what we've seen. I don't think they're going to go down the road of a damsel in distress. But so now we have. It's official. We have David Corenswet. We have Rachel Brosnahan as Clark and Lois. And now the most interesting part of the movie is Lex Luthor. So even though that there's been speculation that Lex is not the main villain of this first movie, but we're going to see Lex. And
I hope he's not.
Yeah, I think it's, the script, I think it would be good to do a lead-in. You didn't watch Smallville. I was a huge Smallville fan. One of the things I enjoyed about Smallville was that they created a friendship between Lex and Clark that I'm not saying you have to do that in Superman Legacy, but it would be cool to see a different dynamic of Lex Luthor. I don't know that I want to see it necessarily, at least not initially, a bald-headed Lex Luthor. So let's talk about the casting of Lex Luthor, which I think is absolutely critical. And let's talk about some of the names that have been bandied about. You and I talked in our video almost 2 months ago about Nicholas Hoult, who's been in Renfield. He was Beast and X-Men.
Right.
He's been in so many different, he was in Catherine the Great series on Hulu, The Great. And he's done a lot of work. I just never saw him as Superman. But the rumor was that he was also up for Lex. But there's some new names that have been bandied about in the last few days, and they've got me thinking this could be really good. And so let's talk about the brothers Skarsgård. Let's start with Bill, who we first saw in the movie It. Played Pennywise the Clown, and has also been in John Wick 4. And
it's a little easier to maybe gauge how you would play Lex
via those roles.
Well, it's hard
John
to really
Wick
do
4.
it with it. So I'd say John Wick 4 might be a little bit more, even though he was
not American.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard. I think he's a good actor. And I think his brother is a good actor as well. But I think my biggest issue is I'm tired of Lex Luthor. I don't really want to see them. It'd be nice if they went with a different villain.
I think they're going to go with a different villain, at least for this first movie. And then there's been rumors that they're going to tie in this other series that James Gunn's doing, The Authority, and bring in these other characters that Superman has to face. But I mean, Lex, I think if they write it, look, it's all about the script. We talk about this in everything we cover. Lex, and that's what I loved about Smallville. They had 10 seasons. He left after season 8. Michael Rosenbaum did, but the first 4, 5, 6 seasons, you had time to flesh out the role of Lex and all the nuances to him. He wasn't bad starting out. He turned bad. He had a little Jamie Lannister side to him.
I was a kid and I couldn't get over the bad special effects, so I never got into it.
I thought some of them were
I was
not
like, when's he gonna fly? You know, it was just
yeah.
But
Like I loved Smallville, but I think the lesson about Lex is in the writing. Is don't make him campy and hamming it up on screen. Like do like Christopher Nolan in Batman. Take it seriously. Write a role that really digs into who is Lex Luthor, and I could see Bill Skarsgård playing the role, but I'm more intrigued by the other option, which is his brother, Alexander Skarsgård, and I'll tell you why, and you tell me what you think. Did you watch Succession this last season?
I haven't. I know Alex from True Blood and
The Northman.
The Northman. Yeah, and then he was in Generation Kill.
Generation Kill.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
was in that. So I know him from those. I mean, he's a great actor. I think he's got more of a physical presence than his brother, which I don't know if that's not really necessary for Lex Luthor though.
So let's talk about that. And before we do, hit the like button, leave us a comment, let us know what you think about the casting of David Corenswet as Clark Kent, Superman, about Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and about the finalists because I don't know that Nicholas Hoult is out of the running for Lex. And we could see a wild card. We could see somebody slip in and become Lex. I don't think it's necessarily crucial that they have Lex cast right now, although I tend to think that they've had some of these roles maybe locked down for a while, and they're just playing up the media. So let us know what you think about Bill Skarsgård, Alexander Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult. Who do you think should play Lex? Do you think Lex should play a big role in this first movie, or should they ease his character in? Most importantly, while you're leaving a comment and hitting that like button, hit subscribe so that we can grow our channel. We really appreciate the support. Alex, you could see in The Northman he was ripped and he's a big guy.
He was in Tarzan too, wasn't he?
Tarzan,
which
he was.
Which
yeah,
I never saw that, but I knew.
So, does that pose a little bit of a problem if you have a Lex that, even though he's human and Superman's not, these two guys are going to be, he's going to be just as big as David Corenswet, and bigger, unless Corenswet really beefs up, which I think he will.
I'm sure he will
for the role. But we've never seen a Lex that is as big as Superman.
Yeah,
I mean, he tends to be smaller, right? So
yeah. And older too, isn't he? Isn't he usually a little older?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a good actor, and I wouldn't mind seeing him in the DCU. I just don't know if I'd use him.
Now,
in
Alexander
Lex.
could play older than Corenswet for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that is easily done. But
He's
the
like
size,
6'5" or 6'6", isn't he? I don't know.
he's a big guy. Alexander is a big guy. I don't know. I like the casting of David Corenswet. It's not like a big name actor that we're going to see and take us out of the Superman.
Yeah.
We both hate that Henry Cavill's gone, but he wanted to reboot this whole thing, and so they made the decision. It is what it is. Rachel Brosnahan, I really, really like in the role as Lois Lane, the casting. So, I think they're gonna do right in the casting of Lex. But it's an interesting role because even if he has a role that's building beyond this movie, it's important. I mean, people walk out of the theater and they go, I liked Superman, I liked Lois. I wasn't really feeling Lex too much, and then you lead into the second movie where Lex has a bigger role. That could be a problem.
I think that killed that kind of killed the Batman versus Superman, because I thought the Lex Luthor who played them, I can't remember.
So that's a good point. That's Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, he was terrible.
I think sometimes people criticize you if you're a male and you criticize or talk about an actress in a role like we have with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, with Fleabag, and then solo movie and Indiana Jones. And I want to point out that I want to be an equal opportunity, criticizer, right? Like Jesse Eisenberg is one of the most annoying actors. I can't watch him on screen, and when I watched,
I liked him in Zombieland.
I haven't liked him in anything.
But he plays that awkward nerdy role well. But
when I watch Batman versus Superman, totally takes me out of the movie. Can't stand watching him on screen. He's one of those guys. I'm starting to get that way about Paul Rudd. But Jesse Eisenberg
really?
is.
I hate Paul Rudd. I mean, he's good for what he is.
Well, and look, I mean, year or two of watching Will Ferrell, I laughed, but now I get to the point where I don't
Same
want
role every time.
I don't want to see Will Ferrell anymore. So there are actors out there that are male actors that are extremely annoying. That if I see them, I turn the channel.
That's a lot of comedic actors. Is they have this shtick they roll with, and then they play that same character over and over again. So I mean,
I just don't think Jesse Eisenberg brings a lot to the table. I don't think he's. I personally don't enjoy his work, and that's fine because some other people.
I thought he was all right in Zombieland. I don't want to see him as a supervillain or superhero, and I thought he was a terrible Lex Luthor. But I don't.
Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor. Sorry, he'd be an even worse.
That's the other channel.
He'd be an even worse Lex Luthor.
So we it looks like we're going to get possibly one of the Skarsgård brothers to play Lex, and then it becomes about the supporting characters, which James Gunn is. He adds in a lot of characters that may get 5 minutes of screen time, but they become popular.
Yeah.
I mean, he's known for that. And so I think this movie, people are going to, when they see the final casting and they see all the characters beyond the main characters, I think that's where it could get even more interesting. So, look, a lot of pressure on James Gunn right now with what's just happened with The Flash. One of the biggest bombs. I thought Quantumania couldn't be any worse than that in terms of the biggest bomb of the year. Flash has it beat right now in terms of a bigger bomb. So, and we're leading into Indiana
Isn't that
Jones.
Crazy though, you make $476 million and you're still a bomb.
Yeah,
Just
because
goes
of
to show how
the
much
budget.
they cost to make.
And that brings up our final point before we wrap up on Superman Legacy. Is they've got to James Gunn. He came from what was the smaller indie movie thing he did. Tromos, or where they did like the monster stuff, where he came from. He was brought up. I'm trying to think of the trauma or the. Someone will leave it in the comments of where he started out working, but he was dealing with small budgets and doing a lot with it. So James Gunn is good at doing that. They can't set a budget of $250 million plus for this movie, Superman Legacy. I think they got to be really careful because the lessons that are being learned this year is that, and we're going to talk about this in a live stream, a future stream, is the habits of people going to the theater post-COVID have changed. They don't just say, hey, we're just going to the movies tonight. The people are going to the theater because they feel like they have to see something in the IMAX or Dolby Atmos in one of the premier screens. And so when people are spending, these studios are spending $250 million and north of that for these movies, north of $300 million for Indiana Jones, not including marketing, they're setting themselves up for failure. Like you said, you could make $700 million at the box office and be a failure, and that's crazy. So Superman they have to be financially responsible, and with the money and the budget for this, and just have a great script. And if you do that, I don't think you have to just special effects after special effects. Just tell a good story. It's kind of like Batman Begins, the first Iron Man movie. The audience will be there. And so that's going to be one of the things we're going to follow. But we hope you like this video. Again, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the recent Superman Legacy news. I feel like it's a good start to what's going to be a reboot to the DCU. They need it. So let us know what you think. Leave a comment, hit the like button, and most importantly, hit subscribe that we can continue to grow our channel and TCB.